Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to look at ground contact time, what it is, what issues can arise from it being too high, and also how we can manage those risks. So first off, ground contact time isn't something people talk about a lot, but it's quite an important thing, especially for lower leg injuries. So we're looking at the amount of time your foot stays on the floor during your running gait, and it's measured in milliseconds. Now, it's often measured by using chest-based heart rate monitor, which have some additional features, stride pods or Garmin running dynamics pods, or some watches say there's information they can get from it. I don't necessarily trust that massively. However, there probably is some correlation to a certain extent. Now, the other thing we can look at is also left to right balance. So not only looking at the overall average, but looking at how you split the foot time on the floor between your left and your right foot. This is particularly interesting if you have a side that is often the one that gets injured, so that's something to think about. Now, if we're looking at reducing ground contact time, there are risks with this overall because we're looking to demand more from the foot or the same amount of workload from the foot in a shorter time. The Achilles tendon, the calf muscles, and the foot muscles and tissues underneath are going to be put under more load, so we need to make sure they're strong enough. So if you are going to make some changes to your ground contact time, your cadence, your speed of running, it's worth working on these tissues a little bit in advance just to make sure they can handle it. Now, the reason that ground contact time can be a problem is that there are studies that show that a higher ground contact time has correlation to lower leg injury risks being increased. The reason being that you're putting more force through your foot more slowly, so it's spending a lot of time on the floor, the ankle is being loaded for plenty more time, and that's then giving it additional stress. What it often means as well is that the Achilles tendon can't really do its thing, so the muscles around it are having to overwork. So your tendon is absolutely fine, however, the muscles around it are really probably not. They then start to stiffen, become less effective, or potentially are weak in the first place, and then we shift that load. So you might get sore calves, and then eventually your Achilles tendon or something around the ankle starts to become painful. Another issue that can create problems with this are the shoes you use. So if you're using particularly unsupportive shoes and you maybe need a bit more support, that can create a problem. Shoes that are way past their best and are allowing either too much pronation or just aren't giving you that rebound that we're looking for can also be a problem, especially if you only really use one type of shoe where your foot becomes very, very used to that movement pattern. That's where we can see the overload coming. Now, a tactic I've used a lot with people over the last couple of years who have calf and Achilles issues who come to me for sports massage or runners MOTs is actually recommending that they use their carbon shoes a bit more in training. Generally speaking, this is something I'm not a big fan of. I think we should make the muscles work. However, when somebody has got an injury and they're either unable to or unwilling to reduce their training intensity and volume because a race is coming up or because that's not their choice and I'm here to help them with their choice, then we can look at carbon shoe usage to reduce that load. The reason being that carbon shoes obviously have a firmer plate and that foam is often very, very light. So with a light shoe that allows them to move with a good leg speed and often a quicker ground contact time, and also have the plate which adds a bit of stability and also gets them off the floor slightly quicker as well. So we're artificially reducing ground contact time, but as long as they're then working on the mobility and the strength around it, actually it can be an effective way to keep them motoring along and keep them training, if not perfectly, still well enough and being sensible as they go through. Now, there's loads of different things around the left and right hand side balance as well. So the amount of elevation you run on, the way you individually run, but also the camber of the road. If you're running on one side of the road, this can really skew the ground contact time balance. So try and look at this on a flat piece of road or even treadmill running, for instance, to see if this still lines up. Also vary your routes to make sure you're not always running on the same side of the road or path where you've always got the same camber. So even just reversing the leap can also reduce this a little bit as well over time. There are lots of little things you can do around this, and it's quite nuanced. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going too deep, too far down the rabbit hole with this on your own. Get some support. Have a look at somebody. Get somebody to look at it with you who really knows what's going to happen with the body and how it might impact things, especially if you are someone who has injuries. If you're somebody who's got no problems with the lower legs, you probably don't need to really worry about this too much. However, it can be something to monitor if you do start to get the odd ache and pain, especially with changes in running volume or intensity, or if you're really on a great journey of improving your fitness and speed over time. It's worth keeping an eye on this as it can be a risk factor over time. See you soon.